4 weeks, 1 injection per week. The weight fell off, but so did my training, my energy, and my libido. This was a video that you're seeing now that I made a full year ago. And to be honest, I wasn't entirely sure I wanted to put it out there, knowing what I found. Fat loss drug, it's been around for a while now, and it's been lapped up in Hollywood by people like Oprah Winfrey with their foreskin cream. It's also been lapped up by people like Elon Musk, Jessica Simpson, and Sharon Osbourne.
Now, the one thing that I've always been with you guys is honest, even when I've taken anabolic steroids in the past, this is something that I think helps, one, create realistic expectations. It means that anything I do say going forward isn't polished with a layer of shit. And I saw some of my peers dabble in it over the last 2 years, and I wanted to see what all the fuss was about. Now, I took semaglutide for 4 weeks. Some people do take it for a longer period of time. Some people have been known to stay on it for months on end. But the one thing that we've got to consider with this is dosage. Now, I started at 0.25. I think it's measured in milligrams per week. And I think that's the thing that gets a lot of people is that, you know, even with me taking anabolic steroids in the past, I would potentially have to pin 2 to 3 times per week. If you can take a compound that you only have to pin once a week in a small insulin needle, this is going to be very favorable to a lot of people. The dosage I increased to, I think I went up to about 0.75 or 0.5 milligrams per week by the 4th week. But you can push this higher, and people do push this higher because the one thing is with a drug, you will need to increase the dosage as your tolerance increases and gets used to it. And the injection is what's known as sub-Q. So it doesn't have to go into the muscle tissue like a steroid injection would. It can just go in exactly like an insulin needle, just into the stomach, into the skin, and you don't even really feel it go in. How much does semaglutide cost? So for most people watching this video, probably aren't buying it from an online source or getting it through prescription. The general cost of semaglutide is going to be anywhere between £50 to £100 if you buy it on the black market. If you get it through prescription, it's going to be about £9. And then if you get it online through submitting your BMI and some other stuff, it's going to be anywhere from £120 to £200 per month, which I thought would probably put most people off from buying it just for the high monthly cost. But then I thought if it's stopping people from going out on a weekend or week-to-week basis and drinking and having meals, is the cost really that expensive? I didn't lose a ton of weight on this, as you can see from the images that I'm going to pop up. I was already pretty lean. I wasn't doing it for weight loss purposes. I was doing it mainly to see how I felt from the drug itself. So I lost a total of, I think, 7 pounds between these two images, which again isn't a whole lot compared to what a lot of people lose over a 4-week period on this drug. Some people have been known to lose up to 20 pounds in a month. But why did I really try semaglutide? Well, it all goes back to a couple of client messages and an Instagram DM that I got, which I still have right now, which asked, Ben, seeing a lot of this semaglutide stuff going around recently and seeing a lot of research on it, just wondered what your thoughts were looking at trying it myself. This coupled with one of my mum's 50-plus-year-old friends being on it, trying it and losing weight, made me think, if people who aren't this involved in fitness are willing to inject themselves weekly to lose weight, then how many other people were willing to do the same with little knowledge and little experience with it? So obviously what I wanted to do is use myself, my body as a test dummy so that I could get a good understanding of the drug, what it did, how it worked, what the drawbacks were it from a first-hand experience before giving my personal opinion on it. With that as well, I've used clenbuterol and T3s in the past, which are both fat loss drugs. I've used them for reasons where I didn't particularly need to lose weight, but I wanted to see what the experience was whilst on them so that I could give my honest opinion, plus backed by research on what these compounds do. Who did I get it off, you ask? Well, my local dealer. No, actually, the thing that is quite scary about Ozempic, semaglutide, and GLP-1s in general is that they're pretty easy to get hold of, which is the most dangerous thing about them, which means that people who are underage can probably get hold of them, people who don't need them can get hold of them. You simply can just lie on some of the online questionnaires, hike your BMI up, and then with some companies get them delivered to you. Some companies will need a doctor's note. Some companies are more strict with their guidelines than others, and rightly so. But on that, you don't need these things. What you need is the hybrid body plan. So the hybrid body plan, HBP, is my new one-to-one coaching program where you can work with me one-to-one and get in the best shape of your life, feeling the best, and you can start running or increase your running and get faster whilst keeping muscle and stop yourself from burnout. I'll leave the link in the description below so you can check it out and book in for a chat. So what is semaglutide and what's it for? Well, this isn't a science video and I'm not going to go crazy into it, but I think it's important that you have the understanding of what it is. And it's a medication which is predominantly developed for people with type 2 diabetes. And it's widely used and prescribed off-label for weight management now, and here's how it works. Lowers blood sugar,
which helps people with type 2 diabetes keep their glucose levels under control, supports weight loss, reduces appetite and slows down digestion, making it easier to eat less and feel full sooner. Semaglutide is a GLP-1 receptor agonist. This means essentially it mimics the natural hormone GLP-1, glucagon-like peptide 1, and it's released into your gut after eating, and it signals your brain and pancreas to increase the insulin, so it helps lower the blood sugar. It's going to decrease glucagon, so stop the liver from making too much sugar. It's going to slow that gastric emptying, so food leaves your stomach more slowly. And then 4, it reduces your appetite, so the brain receives "I'm full" signals way sooner than it usually would. So what was my experience with this miracle fat loss drug? Well, in week 1, I noticed the appetite drop, which usually comes, and then I also noticed a little bit of fatigue, but this wasn't anything too unusual to, when I've done dieting periods or even harsh dieting periods in the past. However, the one thing that I did notice in week 1, I just felt a little bit sick. I felt a little bit nauseous, and that was something that stuck around for about the first 2 to 3 days of pinning the injections. By week 2 to 3 is where I'd really started to notice the weight loss, and quicker weight loss than I'd noticed when I was just dieting before without the Ozempic. The main reason for that was just appetite was really starting to go. I had to remind myself to eat. I had to force myself to eat. It wasn't like, whereas now I have an appetite which is pretty high, vigilant through the day. I had to physically go and put food in my body, which if anybody knows me, I could put food in my face at any point. You don't need to remind me. You don't need to ask me. I'll just be there whenever there's food, smell food, see food, and all types of food. But the other thing that happened in week 3 was that my training really started to suffer. And because I hybrid train, I run, I cycle, I lift, it became really difficult to keep up with the training intensity. I was just so tired all the time. I needed to take a nap in the middle of the day. I think this was one of the biggest drawbacks of taking the drug, which is the fatigue, the level of fatigue. And obviously for the average human or population, it probably isn't even training who's taking this drug. It's probably not as big of an issue, but I think you're really going to struggle to train and get decent sessions in, which will help with preserving muscle tissue. And it was an impossibility for me to, by week 4, get any real good training in. Now, by week 4, I was flat. I had a complete appetite loss. And the way that I'd explain it was I'd completely lost my emotional connection with cheese. So say I saw one of my favorite things, a brick of New York cheesecake, just waiting, begging me to caress it. I didn't have that anymore. The love for your favorite food goes. The food that's put in front of you no longer seems so satiating. I went out for meals, of which the person that I was with had to finish half the meal for me because I was so full. I did actually try and push past these hunger cues at one point, and I just ended up feeling sick for like an hour or 2 afterwards because I'd forced myself to eat. I'd say this is probably one of the strongest things for anybody who does have that ravenous hunger all the time or is constantly thinking about food. It completely takes that connection away from your brain, which I think is the main thing for why this drug is going to be so popular and why it's going to work so well for a lot of people. However, with anything great that comes quickly, it tends to disappear quickly too. So when I stopped taking the drug Ozempic, semaglutide, a couple of weeks after, my appetite started picking up again, and because I only lost a small amount of weight, it wasn't like some of these people are going to lose 20, 30, 40 pounds. The weight started to creep back on quite quickly as I needed to up my food intake for hybrid training, running, lifting, etc. So I think for the people who the drug is probably designed for, who are losing these big chunks of weight, it's going to be a good period for them to drop quickly, especially because for these type of people who probably aren't even training, the motivation is low anyway. And I always believe that taking action then creates a wave of motivation that pushes you forward and into a place where you can keep that motivation in motion. And this for most people might be that exact thing.
So what do I think of Ozempic, semaglutide, and the GLP-1s? Well, I think it's probably one of the most powerful and greatest drugs that's ever been made for fat loss and for those people with diabetes. However, this is what I think and how I think it should be used for. I think ideally what it is and what the drug is used for is for those people who are on the bracket or edge of heart attacks, cardiovascular disease, and type 2 diabetes within this red zone, and the drug can be used to bring them back into the green, and we then educate them how to diet and keep the weight loss off. But often, like it does with most drugs, they end up in the hands of celebrities and lifestyle-based trainers and lifters who then maybe take it to a place it was never designed for. I also don't look down on these people who have
lived life and leaned into these habits which have served them for 20 years. Maybe don't even go to the gym anymore. Maybe have tried everything. Maybe have done the diet. Maybe have done whatever it is and they're still unhappy. These people have now leaned and found something which has helped them drop 20, 30 pounds, which may have taken them 2 to 3 years before. But at the same time, if every time something did get hard and difficult, we just took a pill or a jab for it, I don't think we'd learn a lot in the meantime. It's a little bit like when somebody wins the lottery. They get a huge lump sum of cash, but they've never really had to put the sweat equity in to get there, so the value of the cash isn't as high as if someone's earned it themselves. And also, you don't learn the process of how to get from A to B. If it can help put out some of the flames, i.e. 29% of the UK population being obese, and if we add the overweight to that, increase it to 64%, it helps take the strain off the NHS, then I'm all for it. I was even speaking to a physiologist yesterday who was saying the unbelievable benefits to not just the body, but to the brain when it's been used for microdosing, which the studies will probably come out further this year. So yeah, what can I say? It's pretty good. But also, just a quick disclaimer, I'm not an expert, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a researcher. This isn't me telling you to go and try it. In fact, I would highly recommend that you don't. And if you're thinking about it, go and speak to a doctor.